I want to tell you about a Sunday dinner that I will never forget. My parents' house. The table, set the way it always was on Sundays. Food my mother had spent the afternoon making. The particular warmth of a family occasion that has happened so many times it feels like it will go on forever. I was 26 years old. I had been supporting my parents financially for 3 years. Quietly, consistently, without being asked to account for every transfer or explain every deposit. Because they needed it, and because they were my parents, and because that is what you do. And then I heard it. I had gotten up to get water from the kitchen. The dining room door was not fully closed. And my parents, who did not know I could hear them, were talking. My father laughed. An easy, comfortable laugh. And he said, as long as she keeps sending the money, it doesn't matter what she thinks. My mother said, she always was the reliable one, our little ATM. And she laughed too. I stood in that kitchen, holding a glass of water, and I felt something shift in me that has never shifted back. I went back to the table. I finished dinner. I drove home. And that night, I remembered a letter I had been given 11 years earlier, and told to open only when I truly needed it. I needed it. My maternal grandmother had died when I was 15. She was the person in my family I had been closest to. A woman of few words and deliberate actions, the kind of person who showed love through what she did rather than what she said. 3 days before she died, she called me to her bedside alone. She gave me an envelope. She held my hand, and she looked at me with the particular clarity of someone who has run out of time for anything but the essential. She said, I want you to keep this somewhere safe. Do not open it until you truly need it. You will know when that is. I said, how will I know? She said, because something will happen that makes you question whether the people who are supposed to love you actually do. I was 15 years old. I did not fully understand what she meant. I put the envelope in a box. I moved it with me every time I moved. For 11 years, I carried it to university, to my first apartment, to the flat I lived in now. I had not opened it. I had thought about it occasionally, but I had not opened it. That Sunday night, I sat on my bedroom floor, and I opened it. There were 2 documents inside the envelope. The first was a letter. My grandmother's handwriting, neat, small, the same handwriting I remembered from birthday cards and shopping lists and the notes she used to tuck into my school bag. She wrote about my parents. Not unkindly. She had loved her daughter despite everything, but honestly. She wrote that she had watched my mother and father for many years, and she had seen something in how they related to people that worried her. A tendency to measure relationships by what they provided, to be warm when things were flowing in their direction and cold when they were not. She wrote, I hope I am wrong. I hope you never need this letter. But if you are reading it, something has happened that has shown you what I saw. And I want you to know that you deserve better. You have always deserved better. And I have tried to make sure you have the means to choose better. The second document was a legal summary from a solicitor. My grandmother had set up a trust in my name when I was born. Not a large amount. She had not been a wealthy woman. But over 26 years, invested carefully and left untouched, it had grown into something significant. The trust had matured. It was mine. It had always been mine. She had left me the means to walk away. I sat on my bedroom floor for a very long time. I read the letter 3 times. I read the legal summary twice. I looked at the number, the actual number, what the trust had grown to, and I sat with what it meant. It meant I did not need to keep sending money to people who called me their ATM at the dinner table. It meant I had options I had not known I had. And it meant that my grandmother, who had died when I was 15, who had pressed an envelope into my hands with the specific foresight of someone who understood people better than they understood themselves, had seen all of this coming. She had seen it, and she had done something about it. I thought about what she had said. Something will happen that makes you question whether the people who are supposed to love you actually do. You will know when that is. I had known. Standing in that kitchen, holding a glass of water, listening to my parents laugh about me, I had known. I contacted the solicitor the following morning, that I did not confront my parents immediately. This is the part people find surprising when I tell this story. They expect the confrontation to happen quickly, the dramatic reveal, the moment of reckoning, all of it arriving fast. But my grandmother's letter had given me something beyond the financial means to change my situation. It had given me a model for how to act. She had not panicked. She had not reacted. She had observed, understood, prepared, and acted at the right moment. I spent 6 weeks getting everything in order. I spoke to a financial advisor. I made decisions about the trust, careful decisions, long-term decisions, the kind that would build something rather than simply react to something. I set a date for the final transfer to my parents' account, the last one, and I wrote a letter, not an angry letter, not a list of grievances, a clear, specific, unemotional letter that said, I have supported you financially for 3 years. I am no longer able to do this. The transfer on the 15th will be the last one. I wish you well. I also included one more thing. A copy of the section of my grandmother's letter where she described what she had observed about them, not to wound them, because I thought they deserved to know that someone had seen them clearly, and that someone had loved me enough to do something about it. My parents called within an hour of receiving the letter. My mother first. Her voice moved through several registers, confusion, then hurt, then something that resembled anger but had fear underneath it. She said, We never meant it the way it sounded. It was a joke. You know, we were joking. I said, I know what I heard. She said, Your grandmother had no right to write those things about us. I said she had every right. She was honest about what she observed. I am grateful for it. My father called an hour later. He was calmer. He said, What do you need from us? Tell us what you need, and we will do it. I thought about that question for a moment. I said, I needed you to see me as your daughter rather than your income source. I needed that before I knew I needed it. I needed it when I was sitting at that table believing you were glad I was there. He was quiet. I said, I am not cutting you off permanently, but I am not sending any more money. And I need some time before I know what our relationship looks like without that in it. He said, Right. It was the most honest conversation we had ever had. Removing the money changed everything, in ways I had expected and ways I had not. The expected part, my parents' behavior toward me shifted when the transfer stopped. There was a period of coldness, of pointed comments, of the particular treatment that people give when they have lost something they considered reliable. I had prepared myself for this. It was painful, but not surprising. The unexpected part, after about 4 months, something else happened. My father called me, not about money, just to talk. He asked about my work. He asked about my life. He listened when I answered in a way that did not feel transactional. I do not know what happened inside him in those 4 months. I did not ask, but something shifted. My mother took longer. She is still, in some ways, working through it, but she has had moments of genuine warmth that feel different from the warmth that existed when I was providing for her. Less performed, more real. I do not know what my family looks like in 10 years. I genuinely do not know. What I know is what it looks like now, more honest than it has ever been. And honesty, however uncomfortable, is the only foundation worth building on. I think about my grandmother often. I think about the 15-year-old sitting at her bedside, taking an envelope, not understanding what it meant. I think about 11 years of carrying it, through every move, every new chapter, without opening it because the moment had not arrived. And I think about the Sunday dinner, the kitchen, the glass of water, the laugh I was not supposed to hear. She had said, You will know when you truly need it. She had been right about everything. Here is what I want to leave you with. Love is not automatic. Relationship is not automatic. The fact that someone is family does not mean they see you clearly or treat you accordingly. But here is the other side of that. There are people who do see you clearly, who watch carefully and love quietly and do practical things to make sure you are protected even when they are no longer there to protect you themselves. My grandmother was one of those people. I carry her letter with me still. Not the copy, the original. In the same envelope she handed me at 15, slightly worn at the edges now. When things are hard, I read the part where she says, "You deserve better. You have always deserved better." She wrote that 20 years ago. It is still true. Drop a comment below. Tell me about the person who quietly had your back. I read every single one. Like this video if any part of this stayed with you. Subscribe because these stories deserve to be told. I will see you in the next one.